Hey everybody, Jared Bruning here with the Daily Bellringer, and this is Daily Bellringer Now. And right now, I guess this Daily Bellringer Now. What I want to do is share resources for teachers. Me being a teacher myself, and so I just wanted to share some things that I think are some cool resources, good places to find information. And so tonight, I'm really excited because I have a guest with me who it just has a plethora of stuff to offer. I mean, just tons and tons and tons of resources to offer, especially with educational technology. And as we all know as teachers, we're constantly being bombarded with, here's the newest thing, or here's something you need to learn. And if you check out my guest tonight, he is going to give you all kinds of great information on how to use educational technology. And so who I have with me here tonight, his name is Richard Byrne. And I guess I'll give you a little about my background and tell you a little bit how I kind of came to know Richard. I actually have a master's degree in instructional design and technology. And so in my own district, I was kind of an instructional coach that has helped out other teachers with technology issues. And so when you kind of get into that whole sphere, Richard's name is one that pops up quite often as far as being one of the leading experts in a lot of educational technology. And so Richard has a website. The website is, and again, if you want to correct me here, Richard, your website it's free technology for teachers, right?
Free Tech for Teachers.
freetechforteachers.com, and then also you have Practical Ed Tech as well, correct? Are two different places where you can find some of Richard's resources and everything. And so, Richard, I guess I'll hand it over to you here if you want to kind of introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and share with everybody kind of just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So Richard Byrne and freetechforteachers.com and practicaledtech.com. I started freetechforteachers.com back in 2007. At the time, I was teaching ninth grade contemporary studies, kind of a combination of a little bit of world geography, a little bit of current events, a little bit of world history, all kind of thrown into a melting pot for freshmen at the high school level. And so I taught high school social studies and, that course as well as U.S. history for many years, and then freetechforteachers.com kind of became its own thing, and for a number of years it was my full-time job, and that's what I did. And then a few years, 4 years ago now, a good friend of mine became the principal, or I should say not the principal, the director of a vocational school, called me the day before school started and said, "Hey, would you be willing to teach computer science?" And I said, "Sure, I'd be willing to do that." And so he got me back into the classroom to teach computer science. And today I am doing freetechforteachers.com and practicaledtech.com. And if you add it all up, it's now 20 years of working in public education in one way, shape, or another. And so my passion is still very slanted towards social studies, which is probably why you don't find a whole lot of math tips on any of my websites. I know enough math to be dangerous, is what I like to say, right? Like I understand the stock market and I can explain how you can short something, but you don't want me to, teach your.
Well, I mean, those math people are just weird. The math people down the hallway, they're just messed up, right? So.
Well, I don't know about that. I know some
No, they have a lot of my respect because I can't figure that stuff out, and so I respect them for being able to do that. So to each his own, I guess. So but again, your website, like I said, you said you started it back in 2007, correct? So I mean, if you think about it, that's about the time. I mean, Google Classroom was just. I guess that was more like that was.
Oh, before Google. That was before Google Classroom. That was way before that. That was long before Google Drive. Google Docs was still in beta. In fact, I just came across a blog post, and I had a screenshot of Google Docs, and it still had a beta label.
Well, yeah, it just seemed like when all of that just kind of flooded in, teachers were just kind of expected to, here it is. figure it out. You need to, and I feel, there are still some teachers that are still, I think, trying to figure it out and everything. And like I was saying, if you go to Richard's YouTube channel, his channel, he has just video after video after video. If you need information about like Gmail or how to create a website or anything like that, any of that stuff pertaining to like Google education, there's just so much stuff there to offer. And so I guess, I sent you a few questions here to kind of think about here as we're talking tonight. And one of them here, and I know I've kind of touched on this already, but just the resources that you offer. So I mean, are there some that you really like to highlight, some things in particular that you really like to say this is really something that I offer to teachers?
Yeah, so I would say my own personal interests, my biggest interests are, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, I know, on some of your questions here, but I still get excited about Google Earth. I still get excited about teaching kids search strategies and how to actually search and teach them that searching is not just typing something into your keyboard or saying, "Hey Siri, tell me about the Battle of Lexington and Concord." That's not search. That's a function. So I still get excited about that. So I offer a lot of resources around those topics. A lot on Free Tech for Teachers. You'll find them all for free. On Practical Ed Tech, I do deep dives into a lot of resources and offer some courses. If you want to take some deeper dives into some courses, I offer that as well. And my YouTube channel, which I started, I don't know, probably 2010, 2000, right around there. Really just because I wanted to post some screencasts. Some folks were asking, "Hey, do you have a screencast of this?" And I found it was often easier to do a screencast than it was to do a whole bunch of screenshots. And so I just make a screencast video, put it on my YouTube channel, didn't think anything of it. One of the videos about Google Forms that I put up there got like 300,000 views. I was like, there is zero production, post-production done other than I turned it on, I turned it off, cut, ship it. That's about it. It's really, what you see is what you get. If you look at my YouTube channel today, you're going to see the same thing that's happening right behind me right now. You're going to see a little drawing my daughter made for me of a skier, my 6-year-old daughter. You see my Wooly Willy poster back there, and depending on how I tilt the camera, you might see some pictures of my kids up there. But that's what it is. And there's some guides that I offer on practicaledtech.com. You'll find some guides that I offer to help teachers with things like understanding copyright. Right? That's what I've been talking about for years now. Is just because you're in a classroom doesn't mean you can make 100 photocopies of something and pass it out, or just because you're using it for your class PowerPoint presentation doesn't mean you can download any picture you want. So I have some guides to
yeah. Well, and I like too. You brought up a whole Google Earth thing. Actually, initially myself, I was actually a geography major, and so I remember I had that it was back 2005, 2006 when we first started seeing some Google Earth. And what's fascinating to me is that's one of the technologies that it seems like, even though it's relatively old, I guess you would say in educational technology terms, I still have students that get excited about Google Earth and getting, I know that every student, of course, wants to zoom in and look at their own house, but it's still cool the way, just like, for instance, today, I was covering in my class, I was talking about Andersonville during the Civil War, the prison camp. And so we zoomed in, we're able to kind of go around, see the cemetery, all that stuff there. And so it's that's one of those great resources that I think so many times we don't utilize enough, that it's just, to give the students spatial awareness is such a big thing. And it's a great tool that you can use to have that spatial awareness and everything. So yeah, that's really cool. And two, I saw that you just posted some stuff about screencasting, I believe. Yeah, and that's something that I think teachers don't realize how simple that is. Honestly, what we do here, I do a little bit of editing with my video. You probably do just a little bit of editing maybe with your videos, not a ton. But, it's one of those things that teachers don't realize, for us, even if you're gone for a day, you can leave a screencast for a substitute teacher, and you know that the students are going to get the exact information that you're wanting them to get, or the and everything. And so and I know there's so many teachers, and you've probably heard this before, there's lots of teachers that are just like, oh, I don't want to be seen on camera, I don't want to be seen on camera or heard on camera. It's kind of like, you kind of have to just get over it. It's kind of like, this is what it is, right? This is what it is right here.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I was going to say that it's exactly that. My early videos didn't appear on camera, and I actually was at a seminar that was hosted by Chris Brogan, who's kind of well known in the marketing world and business world, and he said the exact same thing. He said, you just got to get over yourself. It's like, unless you're trying to be an Instagram model, just get over yourself. You're a 40-something old guy with gray hair. So what? Just own it, right? Like that was kind of his deal, and it was a good point. And so I started turning the camera on, and put a face to the name, so that people don't think it's Ray Romano doing voiceovers on my videos and things like that. It's actually just me. But that's a good point. And along those same lines, one of the things that I'm trying to do right now, and then I think a lot of teachers, just a little quick tip for any teacher who is doing a screencast, is that no kid wants to look up your nose for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, right, just elevate your webcam and try to look at your webcam occasionally when you're doing those things, and it makes a huge difference in how your kids react to the videos when they know that, hey, you're actually looking at the camera, you're not looking down
and I forget,
and
again, I'm trying to remember back to my master's program. I know there was a class that I had that had kind of some data showing how people are much more engaged in a video if there's a face that they can see with it. So it's like, if you're a teacher that you just want to record that audio, that's fine. Maybe just get your feet wet with that. But it's really important that you actually have your face on there so they can see you. I have to admit, there's been a few days where I've been like, I've come down with the flu or whatever, and I've recorded a video, and I'm like, I'm not showing myself on video when I have the flu. So I'll be like, I say to the kids, I'm like, I'm not on here today because, well, you don't want to see me like this, so, but
yeah. Well, and even today, like my hair is about as long as it ever gets these days. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, my hair's a little long. Maybe I should have gone and gotten a hat before we started this. Oh well, we're gonna go.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What do I look like? I was just putting my kids to bed, so I think I got a little. I got a little
I'm right there with you. I got to get kids to bed here soon too. Another thing I was going to ask you about, because again, you've seen it all the educational technology that's been coming out at teachers. Teachers feel so overwhelmed that it's just like constantly. It's like, okay, here is this app, and you need to download this, and you need to try this, and you need to do that. I guess, what do you look for in a new educational technology? Is there anything like you kind of look for when you're looking at a new technology, whether to determine if it's actually something that is good for the classroom?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm always looking for is, does it provide kids with a new learning experience, like a new meaningful learning experience, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I still get excited about. I don't know why I'm harping on Google Earth today, but I am. I'm harping on Google Earth because when you turn it on, like you can go and look at something new to you right now, right? Like I remember back when I was in elementary school in 19-something, and looking at the big maps on the wall and being like, oh, Soviet Union, and like, what's it look like in Moscow? You can go to the textbook and be like, oh, here's a picture of Moscow, but that's about it, right? Now, like, you can go and walk the streets and really look at things, and so I still think that's such a powerful tool. I'm really curious about AI and how that's going to fit in the classroom. There are some things that I think are really interesting about AI in terms of a student use beyond the plagiarism aspect. Like, for example, Canva, right? Canva has incorporated some AI, including a tool that will let you just basically give it a couple of prompts and it will create a slideshow presentation, right? So, type in causes of the War of 1812, or 5 causes of the War of 1812, Canva will spit out a presentation for you in minutes. Well, okay, now that assignment we used to give to kids where they would like work on it for an hour, well, now it's done in a minute, right? So what's that shift for us? So, as a teacher, we now start to think, okay, now we're going to say, okay, kids, you've got your bullet points in a minute or 2 minutes. I want you to go deeper. Yeah, we've got pretty slides now, right? But we need to go deeper. I want to use that time to get that deeper learning experience. And so, those are the things I look for. And I always am interested in things that give teachers more time to do the fun things in class, right? That's why I love teaching teachers how to create canned responses in Gmail or canned responses in Outlook or wherever it is. Because okay, we all have that time in the school year. It might be the beginning of the semester, it might be the end of the year, where you're getting asked 100 questions.
Yeah,
but they're really
exactly,
the same questions over and over again, right? It's just let's program that. Boom. Let's move on with our lives. Or maybe you have to give a specific quiz that your school district mandates for every U.S. history student or every English student, right? Can we automate that in some way? Put it in a Google form, a Microsoft form. Get that grading done, and let's get on to the fun stuff of teaching. The making more time to talk with kids. That having those one-on-one meetings with kids or those conversations with small groups of kids in your class. It's a heck of a lot more fun than spending your time, answering an email. You've already answered.
Yeah, I mean, in my position again, I teach junior high social studies. I know I have to grade, but man, I just dread grading because it's I want to spend my time planning lessons, coming up with what's something we can do fun here, actually doing stuff with the students instead of just, spending all my time on grading. So yeah, you're right. If we can find, ways to cut down on the time of that so that we can focus more on actually creating engaging lessons for students, that's a big thing. Yeah. So,
yeah, and I want to be clear that I'm not saying don't grade. I'm not saying that. There is, believe me, as a history teacher, there is definitely a place for reading students' essays, and I have read more students' essays than probably I ever thought I would in my life. But but that's also a great way to get to know kids too, right? And that's going to become, I think, more and more important as we see more and more AI tools pop up. Okay, if you haven't been reading your kids' papers all along, how do you know that all of a sudden, wow, Billy went from, cranking out some really choppy sentences to suddenly he's, the next, I don't know, I'm trying to pick an author. He's the next Dan Russell.
But I guess I was going to ask you, I'm trying to think how to word this question for you, because thinking of the whole AI thing, for me, as a junior high teacher, I already told my students, it's pretty easy to spot, if you simply copied a thing. But what do you do when you get to the high school level where it's they're a little more mature, they've kind of refined their writing? I mean, can you think of any way? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you have a good answer for that or not, but what do you think? Is there a way you think you can kind of recognize that stuff when you see it come across your desk?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are. So first of all, as fast as the AI tools are coming out to generate writing, there's also tools coming out to find the writing that was generated with those AI. It's this arms race basically of who's catching who with right. It's kind of like what is that famous plagiarism checker? The Turnitin, right? The Turnitin that came out 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, whatever it was. So it comes back to getting to know what's your student's writing style to begin with, right? And you can do that in a really simple way of doing some in-class writing prompts, right? You do a 10-minute quick write at the start of your class. Give them a prompt about I don't know, let's pick a topic. War of 1812. I love the War of 1812. Living in Maine, living on the Canadian border, basically. There's always some tension there. So anyway, I give them a prompt about that, right, and have them write for 10 minutes about it. It gives me a pretty good baseline of okay, and if I do that, a handful of times throughout the semester, I've got a pretty good baseline of what have my kids written that's actually theirs versus something that might have gotten generated by AI. And I look at it, in a lot of the same way as when I remember when Wikipedia was new, right? And there was all these people who were like, "Oh, well, kids are just going to go to Wikipedia and copy and paste the articles." Yeah, some are, but you know what? Most of them aren't. There's that component too of there's the novelty effect of that, but I really think it comes back to teaching kids also how these tools work and the inaccuracies of a lot of these tools, and not to get into the debate about how good or bad the information is in let's say ChatGPT, for example. But depending on the assignment you're giving, ChatGPT may not spit out very good information, right? I'll give you an example. I just did last week. I was in a seminar with Gary Steger last week, and if anyone out there is really interested in computer science and how it relates to the classroom or the constructivist idea, check out some of Gary's work. Gary Steger and Sylvia Martinez do fantastic work. But anyway, we're talking about a prompt of double vowels, right? Double vowels in animal names is how it came up. Like, we're thinking of all these rules for how did you program the various ways to pluralize names that have double vowels and how they end. And right? So anyway, long story short, ChatGPT, I went to it just to see what it would do. Give me a list of animal names that have double vowels in them. It spit out a huge list, and half of the list was completely wrong. Yeah, completely wrong. Because it just identified anything that had the same vowel twice in the name, not actually together. So I had to then go and define, okay, what do I mean by double vowel? I mean two vowels, the same vowel, one after another, like in moose, right, or sheep, right? And so once it defined that, it got a little bit better, but it was still about 30% wrong. And so there's a lot to be learned about how AI works, a lot to be learned about what we're going to teach kids in terms of prompts for it. I've been working on a guide to refining prompts, right? Because a lot of it is comes back a lot of let's say refining of AI prompts relies on you having a lot of content knowledge to begin with.
You got to ask the right question, right?
Right, like if I had given that prompt to a kid, make a list of animal names that have double vowels in them, right? And they had gone to ChatGPT, gotten that list, turned it in, I would know immediately that they don't know what double vowel is, or they didn't read the list that they just printed off. One of those things. Or both. Right? So then I have to go, okay, all right, let's make sure that this kid knows that by double vowel we're talking about the same vowel twice in a row. So
that's a good point. Yeah, they have to have a little bit of knowledge just to be able to correctly use the technology. Of course, I mean, like you said, it's constantly evolving, so who knows what it's going to, how far it's going to go. But I guess you said something else here, and I apologize if I'm being the devil's advocate here on this question for you. But you were talking about, okay, if you give your kids a writing prompt and say you give them, 2 or 3 like every quarter or something like that. What if you're that teacher, because I was that teacher, who has like 160 students that's coming through your classroom? Yeah, so it's like, what do you do? Because I mean, like, man, I mean, when I would do a writing prompt and have to like do it was just like, oh my goodness, what did I just get myself into? Because I was like, I can't sit here and read 100 and whatever of these essays, and it's like I have kids of my own at home. I gotta get home. I gotta do these things. I mean, do you have any? Can you think of any like tech tips to? I mean, I know for me, I kind of started using what you talked about, like the canned responses, things like that. That helped me to be able to kind of speed up the process. But I mean, have you got any other kind of tips you can think of, like somebody dealing with that?
Well, I think,
okay.
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, canned responses helps. For some people, voice commenting helps. Depending on that can be hit or miss. Like voice commenting can be a curse or a blessing depending on how well it's implemented. Mote, for example, MOTE is a great platform, but there's others out there that are not quite as slick in their implementation, and so it actually becomes more of a burden. The downside to voice comments is also that then kids have to play them back, and so they may not play them back because they may not want to A, listen to you, or B, listen to you at whatever location they are when they're viewing those when they're reviewing those comments. So no, I mean that's the thing that any humanities teacher has struggled with. I think since the dawn of humanities. Is we've got 125 kids taking freshman contemporary studies, and now I've got 125 5-paragraph essays.
Well, if they can figure out an AI program that could grade yeah.
There is one out there. There's one out there. It's called Got Learning. Got Learning does have an AI for evaluating essays, short essays, but I think if you rely on that completely, you have no baseline to compare again.
Some things it's like there's so much great technology, but sometimes you just gotta knuckle down and do the work.
It's like losing weight. There's really no shortcut to losing weight other than exercise more and eat less.
All right. Well, I guess another question I had here for you again, getting away from that was an interesting conversation for me because, again, just thinking of all the stuff I have to grade and everything, I wasn't necessarily wanting to focus on grading tonight. But, again, that's a reality of being a teacher that you have to do that stuff. But, again, with you being a history guy, being, into social studies and everything, is there any, technology right now that you're, kind of really excited about in terms of, history education or anything like that?
Yeah. So there's a cool app called Hello History.
I kind of looked at it a little bit. I haven't tried it with students or anything yet. I'm kind of thinking maybe next year I'm going to try to implement it maybe.
Yeah, so hellohistory.ai, you can use it on your Android device or your iOS device. And I think there's about 400 historical characters in there. And your students can ask questions of Che Guevara or George Washington or pick one of the other 390.
So it's pretty much they can have a text conversation with them, right? And so
yeah, you have a text conversation and ask them questions. I will say in my testing of it, it's great for generalities. It's great for generalities. It could be a fun way to get kids excited to learn about some. I'll say some lesser known characters from history. It obviously covers the big one. Covers the big ones that everyone would expect.
Yeah.
But those are also covered in textbooks in excruciating detail as well. I think it'd be more fun for some of those lesser known people in history for kids to get to know about them. But again, it speaks in it kind of speaks in generalities in my testing of it. I tried to push George, for example, I tried to push George Washington to get his real feelings about John Adams, right? And the relationship between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. And he kept coming back with, well, the relationship between all politicians is a complicated one, or something like that. And I was like, all right, yeah.
So, it's just kind of a generic answer on a few things that come back at you, with that and everything. Yeah, but it'd be cool. Again, I haven't really got a chance really to look into some of the lesser known people in history, but like you said, it's that's really one of the fun things in history classes to bring up those lesser known, and did you know that this person did this and everything. That's definitely something you want to check out. So what was it called? It's Hello History, right? I keep on frying.
It's called Hello History. You'll find it at hellohistory.ai.
And again, just a reminder, a lot of these links that we talk about and everything in this conversation, I'll try to put down in the description of the video later on. And so I guess, again, and I know this is just such a big question that I don't really know if you can necessarily answer it or not. But have you got your top 3 technologies that you're excited about right now? I know we've been talking about Chat GPT. I don't know, I don't know if that would fall into one of your top 3. I don't know if there's some other ones that you're kind of really.
I'll just lump Chat GPT, Google Bard, Bing with Chat GPT incorporated into it. I'll lump those all into kind of the research category. or search category. And I just I get excited about search when it gets kids to a place that's a little bit deeper than what they would have found in their textbook. And really what I get most excited about with search and all search tools is when students come across something that's completely new to them. They're like, oh, I want to go off on that tangent. Like, I want to go off on this academic tangent and learn more about threshing machines in the 19th century. Like, whatever it is, whatever it is gets them excited, or, how to separate. Here's one that came up more than a few years ago now for me. But we have a county fair here. I live in a rural area. We have a county fair. And big thing that some of my kids came back with was how did they separate the cream from the milk before it was automated, right? Like, and so that went on this whole tangent of like old farm equipment and old dairy farm equipment. I was like, all right, yeah, that's not anywhere in my U.S. history curriculum is dairy farm equipment of the 19th century. But you know what? My kids are excited about it, and we went off on this huge tangent in research.
Yeah, but something like that, though. I mean, when you study that, you kind of demonstrate to the kids how automation has changed everything so much, and how we can produce so much more food and feed so many more people because of automation. So yeah, you can tie those things, like even if it's like they come in with some oddball thing like that, you're like, well, I don't want to spend the rest of my day looking at separating cream. It's like so. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When they come in and they have something like that they're excited about, you should run with it.
Yeah, I really like a new tool, new this school year, called Focusable. Focusable is, I think, it's an app. You can also use that on your web browser. They have mobile apps as well as a web browser version of it. And what it does is it trains you to block out distractions so that you can focus on your work. And there is a component of it to use in schools where students can record how they feel after every focus session. Focus sessions can be as short as 2 minutes or as long as 15 minutes. And they record how they felt while they were working. And you as a teacher can give them some feedback or just reply to them and say, hey, keep it up, or good job on ignoring that box of nails fell off the desk or whatever it is. So it's a really interesting tool. Instead of blocking kids from websites, or instead of blocking yourself from a website, I use this all the time when I'm trying to write something and I don't want to write it. When you don't want to read 150 essays from ninth graders, turn this tool on, and it really does help you learn to focus on the things you have to get done. And it's just
so I guess real quick. So again, so it doesn't necessarily block websites.
Don't block anything. You can still, if you want to say, hey, I'm still going to go look at Facebook or TikTok or whatever, they're not going to stop you from doing that. What it's trying to do is train you to not go to those things. And so it works on basically the premise of a progressive series of focus challenges for you. You start with 2 minutes. Can you focus on a task for 2 minutes? When you do, it gives you a little breathing exercise to do, and then record how you feel, and then get right into the 5-minute focus block. And then, you did 5 minutes, good job. Why don't you try it for 10 minutes? And what happens is, you really feel like by the time you get to that 10-minute, by the time you get to that third interval, you're like, I'm on a roll, right?
Yeah.
Because you can do anything for 2 minutes. If you think you can do anything for 2 minutes, you can, do jumping jacks for 2 minutes. You can, why not for 2 minutes read that essay that you've been ignoring, or for 2 minutes write that essay that
I guess
you've
I'm just
been
thinking
ignoring.
to myself, that just sounds like something that is just like almost tailor made for like, maybe some students in like the IEP program, things like that, that might, help those students. So yeah, that's definitely something I might take to some of those, some of our, yeah.
It's for anyone. I'm using, like I said, I'm using it myself right now,
Hmm.
like pretty much every day when I don't want to work on something. And often, like the things that I want to ignore are like an email that I'm like, oh, that email is going to take me 5 minutes to construct a good response to, and so I just shove it off until I'm going to do that later, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, just do it. Like, just do it for 5 minutes, and you'll be done
Huh,
with it,
that's
right? And
interesting.
Focusable
I've
really
never heard
helps
of
you
that
with
before,
that.
so yeah, I'll have to check that out. So, all right. So, are there any other technologies you want to highlight, or that's kind of your big ones that you're really excited about right now?
Uh, I still get really excited about anything that introduces kids to programming in a meaningful way. Even before I taught computer science, I was very much interested in this. And by coding in a meaningful way or programming in a meaningful way, I mean
Hmm.
making something that's actually useful, right? Uh, or making something that really gets kids interested in learning more about it. And an hour of code doesn't do that, generally speaking. It could for some, but an hour
Hmm.
is not very long to make something. You want to make something that, like you're really super proud of. The MIT App Inventor. And again, before I even taught computer science, I used MIT App Inventor with my U.S. history students to make uh, little mobile apps for
Hmm.
reviewing for exams, right? Stuff like that. There's a platform called Blackbird Code, which is
Hmm.
designed really for middle school to get beyond block coding and actually learn to start to write code instead of just dragging and dropping these
Hmm.
blocks on the screen. You're actually going to write the code. So I like Blackbird Code for that reason. And I go back, I go back to logo.
Hmm.
And whenever I say logo, people are like, "What? You're talking about logo?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm, my introduction to computer science was via logo in the late 1980s when I was
Wow.
in elementary school in sixth grade. And
Hmm.
fifth and sixth grade, I was using logo on old Apple IIe's, and logo's been around even
Wow.
longer than that.
Huh.
Logo's been around since the 60s. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
so I
it's
mean, you
still a
can
very
introduce
powerful
some of those
platform.
technologies in any class, and I was going to say, I mean, I'm not a coding person. I mean, I have to admit, I've never really learned that. I've never really understood it. It'd probably be something fascinating to learn about, but trying to incorporate those things, like for instance, like we just got done with a project in my class where I had the students like build a website for the Sons of Liberty. If they were going to have a website, what would their website look like, and what would it have on it? So we just used Google Sites, and they just like and they realized how simple it is to actually create things like that. But you probably can, you're taking it a step further if you can have them actually creating the code and everything to do that. So that's awesome. I mean, that's a great way to engage them in technology and in history at the same time. So yeah. But I guess one last question here I had for you, and again, I appreciate you sharing those different technologies you're excited about, but all of us know that social media is like, drives everything nowadays. It's like everybody's on TikTok, everybody's on Twitter or whatever, and it's so much harder to keep kids' attention and keep them engaged, it seems a lot of times. So I guess, how do you see us as teachers in the future trying to keep kids engaged? Like, I mean, is it going to be educational technologies? We have to be using these in order to keep them engaged. I mean, what is your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm really concerned about attention span, right? And I know I sound
Hmm.
like I'm a pitch man for Focusable, but I'm not. I have no compensation or any kickback from Focusable about this. They don't even charge for their thing. So
Uh-huh.
to be honest, I'm not sure how they're making money. But anyway, yeah. So there are other
Hmm.
platforms out there that are like it. I think, yeah, we need to recognize that, yeah, kids are on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever, pick the platform. And to some extent, it is attention span and teaching kids and helping them learn how to focus and how to block out some of those distractions for 5 minutes, so you can work in a 5 minute block and then move on, then give them the 30-second break and then move on to another 5 minute block, right? So
Hmm.
there is, to some extent, there's that. There's also a little bit to consider in terms of the instructional design, and I know there's a lot of startups out there now who are really trying to develop short form courses, right? And by short form courses, I mean not that the course itself is short, but all the modules within the course are very short. They're all 2 to 3 minutes, so that you feel like, oh, hey, guess what? I did 10 modules today. Well, yeah, but your 10 modules took you 25 minutes, right? Like it's still half the length of a typical high school class, right? But you feel like you did a lot, and so I think we're going to see more along those lines moving forward. Is in that design of the instruction itself is a lot of short 2.5 minute, 3 minute, boom, here's your little module. We're going to think about it. We're going to move on to the next thing, right? But along with that, we still need to be thinking about helping kids move forward. Like so full disclosure, or not really disclosure, but you're going to be the first to hear about this besides about 4 other people in my entire life. I'm taking the LSAT in June. Right? I took the LSAT 22 years ago. I took it in pencil. That's how long ago it was. I took it in pencil. Took a stack of number 2 pencils with me to take the LSAT. I'm taking it again in June this year. So about 5 weeks from now. And I've been studying my butt off lately for it. And it's like, holy cow, 25 minutes goes fast when you're really into a stumper of a problem, right? When you're really into a stumper of a logic problem. Wow, 25 minutes goes really fast. And so I think, kids need to learn that. Like they need to learn, hey, I need to focus on this right now. I cannot open up my phone and check my Snapchat for 1 second. I can't, because no one checks Snapchat for 1 second.
One thing leads to another on there.
Facebook for 1 minute.
Yeah. So I mean, you're absolutely right. It's like attention span is getting shorter and shorter. And I have to admit too. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff I have on my channel and my YouTube. One of the reasons I started making those videos is because there were videos that was like 13, 14 minutes long, and it's like I really don't have time in my class. My kids aren't going to pay attention for that long, and even my videos are honestly a little bit long because they're right around 5 minutes, and that's kind of pushing it even for students to sometimes pay attention for that long a time. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we got to think about that what students' attention span is, and maybe like I said, a Focusable might be a good tool to kind of start introducing to students to get them to kind of think about what they're actually being focused on. So.
So on that note, I will plug a book from Cal Newport called Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. If you're at all interested in this topic, pick up a copy of this book, go to your school library, get your school librarian to get you a copy, or buy it on your favorite giant conglomerate to send more billionaires into space. We can send them to space. Do we have to bring them back?
I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a great point. I haven't really thought about that. That again, attention span is where we maybe need to be focusing on. See if we can increase that for students. So again, I appreciate you talking with me here tonight. I apologize if I kept you too long here tonight, and I'm keeping your kids up.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm a rambler. Okay. You don't know that from my YouTube videos, but I'm a rambler.
That's why, usually with my videos, I try to have a script because otherwise I probably would just sit there and ramble about things. So I try to keep to a timeline and everything. So again, thank you, Richard, for joining us. Again, if you want to check him out, it's, Practical Ed Tech is one of his websites where he offers some information, and then free technology for teachers, right? And again, the website is free tech or free teacher. 3 Tech 4 Teachers with a number 4. So,
teachers.
Again, like I said, I'll put a link down in the description to this. So if you want to check out some of those resources, you can check them out there. So again, thank you so much for joining me here tonight, Richard. Was there anything else you wanted to add here as we sign off?
My pleasure.
Oh, there you go. All right. I haven't even been following. Are they doing well? I know the Cardinals aren't doing well. That's my team near me. So that's about as well as expected.
They're doing about as well as expected.
All you can ask for, right? So, okay. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me here, Richard. And thanks for learning something. And I'll talk to you later. Thanks.